Hi everyone, it's Kasia from the Niagara-on-the-Lake Public Library, and we're here for this week's NOTLLibrary Live Create with Kasia. What we're going to be making today is a baby humpback whale, just like this. It's just 4 o'clock now. We're gonna wait a couple minutes or so just in case people are joining us. But I will do a quick run through of materials. So what you're going to need before we start painting, and I did forget one thing from the graphic that I posted earlier. So I will run through that really quick. But what you're going to need is a protected surface to paint on. So I have a big piece of watercolor paper on a drafting table, so that you want to make sure that you're painting somewhere that's safe. You're going to need something to paint on, so I'm using a piece of watercolor paper, just like so. You're going to need some water to wash your brush, paper towel to dry your brush. You're going to need some brushes. So these are my trusty brushes that I always have. I actually added a third one in today, so I'm going to do a bigger square brush because we have a lot of background to do. I always have my round fine point brush, and then I have my flat small square brush here. So I have 3 today. You're also going to want to use something to draw with. So I'm going to be using a pencil and an eraser. I always have an eraser. Sometimes I make mistakes. It's okay, no big deal. If you're working on something like cardboard or a darker canvas, you might want to use chalk. Chalk is awesome. I love using chalk to draw my pictures because then you can paint right over it and it erases easy. You're also going to need some paints. So I have blue, white, and black today. If you don't have blue, no problem. You can use any other color that you have at home. I use blue because you typically think of, blue water and a blue whale, and this is a humpback, I know. But if you only have purple, if you only have green, if you only have orange, those can work too. It'll look really cool. Because technically this is a monochromatic painting because we're only using one color and light and dark to change the tone and tint. So the one thing I did forget to mention, and if you want to take a minute or two now to go grab some, is, I'm not sure if you caught the other live stream I did just an hour ago, but you will need a piece or two of saran wrap or plastic wrap. We're going to be using this to make the texture in the background here. So if you want to take 2 seconds, I won't start for the next minute. I'll start at 4:04, so you can run and go get a piece quickly. Again though, if you are just watching and you're not planning on creating with me at this exact moment, that's no problem too. As you might know by now, this is week 8, everybody. Can you believe that? 8 weeks of Create with Kasia. That's crazy. Every single week we upload the video to our YouTube channel. And then we've also been learning slowly how to upload these to IGTV. So there are places that you can find the videos after, so that you can, if you just want to relax with a cup of tea and just watch how I paint, no problem. If you want to create at the same time, now's the time. Otherwise, we have the videos up so that you can watch as many times as you want. You can pause it. You can make as many whales as you like. We also have 8 other weeks. Actually, I think there's closer to 12 different videos that you are able to access on our YouTube channel and make all of those things. So speaking of that, before we start, I may be interrupted. That's Sam or Frankie opening the door. And we have bells on the door, so I know who goes up and who goes down. And same with the dogs. We have bells to know who moves around. The dogs are also here. They're napping. So hopefully they'll stay napping. They've been napping a lot today because of the heat. So it's kind of nice. Hopefully they'll be nice and chill today. Internet's been okay the last week, so hopefully it won't drop. But if it does, don't worry. I will be right back. I won't leave you hanging. I will try to hook up via data or something as soon as I can. Okay? So hopefully you've gone and got your saran wrap. So just a little piece like this. We don't need much because we're going to use it as a printmaking aid. But yeah, let's get started. So again, my name is Kasia. I'm with the Niagara-on-the-Lake Public Library, and thanks for joining me for this week's installment, week 8, everybody, of NOTLLibrary Live, Create with Kasia. So we're going to be making this baby humpback whale. And I mentioned in my previous live stream as well, it looks kind of complicated. Don't worry, I am here to walk you through every single step from start to finish to make sure that you can get there. So I'm just trying to there we go. Okay. I've learned how to put what I'm doing on the iPad so I can see at the same time, except I didn't turn the volume down. So make sure you have your surface ready in front of you. I'm going to switch mine out in the next minute or so. So I'm going to turn the volume really high on this thing. And yeah, if you have any shout outs or if you have any suggestions or anything like that, please let me know because I can see the comments now. So that's exciting. Okay, so get your surface ready and get your drawing utensil. And we're going to start with the bottom line of the whale. So we're gonna start right here and we're gonna go down and up, okay? So I'll show you, don't worry. And if your whale looks a little bit squishier than mine or a little bit wider than mine, that is totally okay because that is what art's all about. So you're going to start here and we're gonna go like this. We're gonna make a curve that goes down and then up. And look, mine's a little wonky there. That's okay. Make sure you're not too close to the end of the page because we wanna be able to fit the tail in right here, okay? So we're gonna do that. And then what we're gonna do, since we have this first line here, and hopefully you can all see that. Yeah, it looks like you'll be able to see it. Then we're going to go up here and we're gonna make a little bump, a little lip, like this, a little bit higher actually. And then we're gonna go up and down and make it a little bumpy along the back and kind of join to that one there. So I'm gonna make this a little darker. Don't press so dark with yours. There we go. So it kind of looks weird. It looks like I just kind of did a quick doodle, but this is actually gonna be the top of your whale's nose here. And see how I made it a little square right there? It's gonna go up and we're gonna make that little bump. So I have this thing here that looks kind of like the dorsal fin on a humpback. They don't have really big dorsal fins. That's the thing that's at the back. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make it a little bit taller, like so. And then I'm gonna use my eraser to get rid of some of that, just like so. So you can go ahead and make the dorsal fin a little bit more pronounced, so a little bit taller. Oh, and I see how much it shakes when I erase. Sorry, everyone. I'm still learning, even after week 8. Okay, so we have the main part of our whale's body, just like this. So now what we're gonna do is we're going to start here, so right at the edge of that bump there, and we're going to go down like this and make it finish up before the end of the tail. So just like that. Okay, so I kind of went in the middle, a little bit closer to the bottom, and I followed that curve, but I finished this line before I got to the end right there, okay? So it kind of looks like, I don't know what it looks like. Okay, so what we're gonna do next is we're gonna make this little lip of the whale, the bottom part of him or her, kind of stick out a little bit more. So right over here, you're going to go past the nose just a little bit and bring it back down and join it to there. And then guess what you're gonna do with that line? You're gonna erase it, and I'll try to make the camera not move so much. So just like that. So it looks weird right now. I'm not sure what it looks like. But once we put in the flipper and once we put in the tail, it will start to look more like a whale. Okay. So let me know, maybe give me a thumbs up or something when you're ready to go on to the next step. This one has a little bit drawing heavy, but again, it looks really complicated, but I will promise that will get you to a finished whale. It'll look really cool. Okay, so let's work on the tail. So from here, what you're going to do is we're gonna make kind of like an almond shape. So you're going to start right at the end here. You can even make it a little narrower if you like. And then we're gonna go over like a slightly curved line, like that. And then bring it back in like so. Okay? And then we're gonna do the exact same thing on the other side. So we're gonna go like this, and we're gonna go like this. Now it's not exactly how a whale's tail looks, but that's okay. It's our artwork. We can kind of pick and choose the things that we wanna add and what we wanna change, right? So it's kind of cool. Okay, so I'm just looking at my whale here and see how, let me go like this. I wonder if you guys can see both. Yeah, see how it's a little bit wider here? I made mine kind of narrow. We're gonna build some of those bottom layers. So I'm gonna show you a little trick, because sometimes when I'm drawing and writing and creating stuff, it doesn't always go exactly the way, even if I practiced, and that's okay. Being an artist is knowing how to be able to fix those things. So let's make this a little bit wider. So if yours is narrow like mine, what you're gonna do is come down a little bit here and follow along and try to finish before the end. I like that better. I'm gonna add maybe one more, just like this. Now see those lines that we're creating? I'm not gonna erase those because they will actually become these lines that are in the whale right here. Yeah, so we're kind of doing 2 steps with one here. So if you've added onto the bottom of your whale to make his, belly or her belly a little bit bigger, what you can do now is go ahead and add in another line or 2 right here. So we've made the bottom of the whale that has all those folds because when the humpback whale opens its mouth and takes in a whole bunch of water, that part expands. So the folds open up, and then when they push all the water out, the folds close back down, and they look like lines to us, right? The best way to show them in a piece of art is by making it have line work like this. So it's starting to look a little bit more like a whale. That's exciting. So what we're gonna do next is add the flipper. So you're gonna start just about here. I like making my flipper not at the furthest down point, but kind of in between here. So that's the furthest point that's down. So I'm gonna come right about here, and you're gonna start at this line, just like that. And we're going to make a similar shape to this, but one side's gonna be wavy. Okay, are you ready? So watch this. So sometimes it's good to watch what I do and then do it, so that you're not trying to watch and do it at the same time and then you make a mistake and we have to stop. Yeah. So, ready? We're gonna start here. Come down like that, and it's pretty far down. It goes past the belly because they have these really big flippers to propel them through the ocean, through the water. And then we're going to make it wavy as we work our way up back to the top. Just like so, okay? Then what you can do is take a minute and just erase some of these lines that are inside the flipper. If you're using chalk, you can just rub them away, but I'm using pencils that you can see on my paper. The next thing, and don't erase them all the way, we're gonna paint over them, especially with a darker color, so you shouldn't be able to see them. We're gonna do the exact same thing here, but we're only going to do a little bit of it, because this is on the flipper's on the other side of the whale, so we'd only really see this tiny little part showing on the other side, the profile view. So we're gonna start here. So a little bit in front, go down, and then go wavy back up. And wherever it ends because maybe the whale's moving, maybe it's twisted. This is one of those things that we can have play with as an artist. So similar thing, just like that. Okay, now the last thing we're gonna do before we start painting is we are going to do a mouth, which is probably gonna get lost when we paint it, and that's okay. And we're gonna do a little eyeball, which is also probably gonna get lost as we paint it, but it's good for our brain to know we put it there so that we kind of have this muscle memory of the stuff we need to add in after. So starting right here, you're going to draw a little bit darker line, just like this, and you're gonna make a little curve that stops right before the flipper. Because whales' mouths are usually really, really big and they go pretty far down their body. I'm not sure if they all go exactly to the flipper, but today we'll make it go that way because it looks pretty cute. So if you don't believe me, this is what I made mine. So there's a really dark line that we put in after, and there's a little tiny eyeball. So you make that line, and then you know what? Whales have little eyeballs just like that. So I started with a little circle, I made it bigger. You can make it your eyeball look however you wish. Okay, and I believe we are ready to start painting. So if you haven't already, this is my next reminder to make sure that you have a piece of saran wrap or plastic wrap. It's one thing I forgot to put in the graphic because we're going to do the background first, and this helps us get this really cool reflective water texture in the back of our painting. So make sure you have that on hand. We're going to make the background right now. So take the biggest brush you have, and I'm just gonna move those there for now. So take the big brush you have. Oh, and that's my drinking water. I'm gonna take my brush water over here, move some on my palette, and then you're gonna take a little bit of paint, and you want really watery paint. Like usually I say don't go too watery. I'm gonna move this over here today. Go pretty watery, just like so. Okay, so you might wanna watch this first part. You can have your paint ready, but watch this first part so I can show you how we're gonna do that technique. Okay, ready? So we're gonna work in little spots. I always start underneath my whale because if I get too dark, it'll just look like a shadow, okay? Because you can lighten up as you go. So what I'm gonna do is put a whole bunch of paint and some water, and I'm gonna go around my whale as close as I can. If you accidentally get some on your whale, that's okay. I'm gonna put more water. Okay, ready? So now what we're gonna do, after we have that down, is we put our saran wrap on top, and you can kind of crunch it up a little bit, and you can let it sit. So see all those cool little marks we're getting? Those are gonna look like reflections and like light coming through the water. So see how I'm letting it sit? We need that, so that's okay. So let it sit for about 10 seconds or so, even longer. 15 is okay, longer is fine too. I'm gonna do up here and do the exact same thing. So put lots of paint, just like so. It's okay if it's messy. It's really light paint, so we can probably paint over. We will definitely be able to paint over with your whale body. So I'm gonna do this one here. I have 2 pieces. If you only have 1 piece, no problem. But when you're ready, you can pull that off and see how you get those really cool effects in there. Yeah, pretty neat. And then guess what? We're gonna do the exact same thing. So I'm gonna pick up where I left off over on this side here, put a little bit more. And see I'm being kind of messy? That's okay. Yeah, just like so. I'm gonna take my saran wrap piece. Make sure you're putting the same side down. And look, I accidentally got some there. No big deal. Just like so. And I'm gonna pull this one off. And then I'm gonna go up here. So this is like a multi-step background creation. Just like so. But it looks so pretty. And this is actually a really cool technique you can play around with afterwards. I used it actually in one of our STEAM story times to make a really cool sunset looking thing. That's just like that. Hi, Sam. I'm doing a video. What would you like? Okay, go ahead. Okay. So, do the same thing right over there. Sorry, everybody. Sam, can you not let the dogs out, please?
Why?
Because they're probably gonna bark. Because there's people outside. Evie, can you come here? Come here, Evie. Come here. Yeah, she knows she wants to go outside. Okay, so keep working your way around here, just like so. With the saran wrap. And it's going to change. So don't worry if, Sam, can you hold on 1 second, please? Don't worry if you have these big, strong lines and then they disappear after. It's actually a really good thing. Hold on. Okay, you can let go. Open. Open. Okay, so Evie, you can stay with me. Okay, so those are those interruptions I was talking about. That's okay. All right, so we have created our really cool background for our whale. And see how some of it is actually stronger than others? I put a lot of paint and a lot of water here. It took longer to dry. Actually, it didn't dry really fast, so all those little lines kind of meshed together. But as I put a little bit less, we get some of those. The cool thing about this technique is even if it gets too soft, you can do this again after it dries and just build up the layers. It's kind of like working with watercolor, except I'm working with acrylic, right? So similar technique, different medium of paint. So we are ready to go. Also, if you have any spots around the outside, you can just use your brush and kind of fill them in. When you're finished, make sure to wash your brush because there's nothing worse than having paint sit in a brush and wreck it because you forgot to wash it. Especially if you're using acrylics, because acrylics get stuck in the bristles and then they become really hard and you can't use the brushes. Okay, so the next thing we're gonna do, since we're done our background, is we're going to make a light gray version of your color to go on the whale's bottom of the body here. Not really the whale's bottom, I don't know if they have bottoms, but it's gonna be the bottom side of your whale. So to start, take some white, move it to a new spot, take a little bit of black to make a really light gray. That's even actually a little bit too dark, I'm gonna lighten it up. And then take just a teeny tiny touch of your color, whatever color you're using. That was probably too much, that's okay. Just move it out of there. and we're going to do that under here. Now that's actually a little bit too dark, so guess what? I'm gonna add more white. We want it to be nice and light, super, super light. I forgot how strong this blue is. Mine might actually look a bit different than the one I made earlier, and that's okay. So you're going to make your really light color, and you're going to start to paint in that bottom layer. And see how that's even too dark? See, one of the things you can do as an artist is stop and think and adjust. So I'm gonna move some new white into a new spot, take some of that one. That's better. Because it's still gray, but it's not as dark as the other one. There you go. I'm just gonna paint over that first spot. And then you're gonna work your way along here. And if you go past some of your lines, that's okay. Try not to go onto your flipper too much. If you do a little bit, that's okay. We can always paint it. Actually, it won't be too bad because we're gonna paint that on top, right? But you don't wanna lose everything that we drew. And even if you lose some of these lines, don't worry about it because we know that they're just lines that start here and go to the back, right? So go ahead and start filling in that bottom part of your whale. Now that color here that I made, that dark one that I thought was a little bit too dark, that's okay. I'm actually gonna use it in one of our next steps. I'll find a use for it. Hi, Evie girl. She's probably a little upset with me because Finn, our other dog, he's outside with Sam, and Evie's like, huh? How come I don't get to go? But she likes to bark and cause trouble, so she gets to stay with me. Right, Evie? Yeah, you do. Oh, well, at least she's happy about it. Okay, so we have the bottom part of our whale done right here. Ta-da! And see how some of those blotches are showing through? That's okay. Whale skin, Evie, whale skin often has those kind of imperfections. Yes. Yeah. Sammy, I'm busy right now, okay? Sorry. Okay, you need to find something to do, please. Okay. Sorry about that, everybody. Week 8, everything's falling apart. Okay. So, next thing we're gonna do is we're going to do a darker color to follow some of those lines in the whale here, just like that. So once it's painted, you can decide what brush you want to use. If you want to use, if you have a fine point brush like that, if you feel more comfortable with it, or if you want to use a brush like this. I'm gonna go with this one. That's the one I tend to like. So I'm gonna take this darker version of a light gray. So if you have some, great. If you need to make yours darker, just take whatever you have left over, move to a new spot and add some darker color to it. So I'll do that actually, just so I can paint along with you guys. I'm gonna take some of this and make it just slightly darker. And then what you're gonna do is use the tiniest tip of your brush, and we're going to start by doing along here. So you're gonna skip over that flipper and go along just like that. Okay? Now we're gonna do here, if you've lost your line, no problem, just make one up, but make sure you carry it all the way to the back of your whale. Now just like normal, the last couple weeks, my paint dries really quick because I'm using watercolor paper. So if you see me add water to my paint, it doesn't mean you need to add water to your paint. You need to pay attention to what your paint is doing and adjust. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do those lines there. And they do not need to be straight. They look a bit better if they're a little bit wobbly. And if you want, you can go along the whale's body here. Just so you can close that lip. I think that looks a little bit cleaner, just like so. There we go. And keep putting those lines in your whale's body, the bottom of your whale's body, just like so. And do one more in here. Now, if you've decided that you want to add some, no problem. If you've decided that you want to take one away and not put it in, no problem. This is your artwork. You can totally do that. Okay. So we have the beginning, actually we have the middle of the bottom of our whale, that expanding part of your whale's body. So now you can wash your brush. If you're still working on that, no problem. So you can wash your brush. And the next color we're going to go with is a little bit of white. Okay? So you're gonna take some white, and if you have any of your light gray left over, take a little bit and just mix it in, just so it's not like plain, straight up white. We kind of want to have some harmony in our picture, just like so. And then you can start here, and right beside these lines, you can just put a little bit of white. And see how I'm feathering it on? I'm not doing one straight line. I'm kind of going like this and adding in little tiny strokes to kind of make it look like that part of the whale's body is made up of all different folds. So it has lots of movement, right? So just like so. And it's very subtle. You probably can't see it that well on the camera, but it is there. And sometimes when it's freshly put on, it's darker, or sorry, it's lighter, and then it dries and it comes darker later. So sometimes paint's funny that way. Okay, so we are ready to move on to the back, the main part of our whale. So after you put those little bit of white highlights in there, you can wash your brush. And we're going to make another gray version of the blue, or whatever color you're making, but we're gonna make a darker gray version of that color, okay? So, like we did before, you're going to make a gray. So actually, you know what, I have this color here. You know what, I'll start from the beginning, because you're probably starting from the beginning too. So I'll make some gray, I'll take some white, and I want a darker gray, so I can take some extra, a little bit extra black. But remember, it's always good to use a little bit of black, not too much, because we can always add more, but it's harder to add more white to take away the darkness of the gray, right, of the black. So I have that here. So I have this really kind of medium gray, and I'm going to take a pretty big chunk of my color, or a pretty big scoop of my color, and I'm going to mix that in to that gray, just like so. Awesome. And you know what? That's not dark enough for me, but I see that now, right? So I'm going to take a little bit more black, maybe not too much, and just add in a little bit as I go. Yes, that's closer to what I want. Because we want this to be the darker layer, because we're going to add lighter dots onto it. And remember, when you're mixing your paint, don't make a giant puddle, or don't spread it out too far. Try to keep it in one little spot while you're mixing. Okay, so that's going to be the top of my whale right there. So I've kind of matched it a little bit. Everyone is different. No big deal if it's different than the one that I made. So what you're going to do is take your time, and you're going to fill in this top layer of your whale, just like so. Now mine, I was looking at my artwork before I went on here, and see how there's like these light marks and stuff in here? That's only because I added a little bit more water to my paint. So if you want the whale to look a bit more shiny, what you can do is add a little bit of water and just kind of make it more watercolorish as you go, and it adds a different texture just by adding water. Depending on what kind of paper, if you're using really thin paper, be careful, don't put too much water on, because it can make your paper crumble. But if you're using cardboard or like a thicker cardstock or something like I'm using, it should be okay. Now see how I went around that eye? You know what? I know that the eye is going to belong right by the flipper. So if you want, go ahead and paint over it. Yeah, just like so. I'm going to add some more water. And those lighter and darker spots that the water helps, the different translucencies in the paint, will help give the effect of light shining on your whale's back. Yeah, pretty neat. And everyone just hear Finn bark? Yep, remember when I said he's the quiet one? Not today. He is not. So I'll have to go let him in soon, but I'll get this tail spot done. So you can keep working on the top of your whale, just like so. Now this again can be done with any color. So I'm using blue, I just happen to have blue. If I'd love to, I don't know, I keep thinking about a purple whale. How cool would that be to see a purple whale? Or like, I don't know, like a yellow whale, like a golden kind of color whale. That would be really neat. Yeah, that'd be kind of cool. I want to see what you're coming up with. And you don't have to follow the rules. If I say paint with blue, you don't have to paint with blue. You can do whatever you wish. Oh, actually, you know what? I'm gonna go let Finn in, everybody. So keep doing this part, and then I'll show you how to do that next. You can go ahead and do it if you already have an idea of how it's gonna be done, but I'll be right back, everyone. Evie, you wait. Okay. Finn, come in. Come on. Come on. Yes. Okay. Okay. Sorry, everybody. Lots of interruptions today. Oh well, one of those days. Okay. So we've done the back, we've done the tail. Let's work on the flipper. So the way that I would suggest doing it is just like all the other stuff I've mentioned. If we have some detail, do the outline first. So take all your time and do the outline just like so. Put all your concentration there. And I tried. Oh look, I add a little bump, but I kind of like it. Yeah, love it. And then after you do that, you can kind of be a little bit more crazy on the inside. Don't actually go crazy, though I feel like that today. But you can be a little bit more free, let's say, on the inside. Ta-da! Okay. Now for this one, it's the same idea. Try to do your outlines first. So I'm going to do this part here. Put lots of care into that little spot because you don't want that flipper to be on top of the belly because it's behind the belly. And then you can go along the side, just like that, just like so. And then you can paint it in, just like this. Okay? Okay, perfect. So you can wash your brush, because we're done with that right now. And we're going to use, if you have your fine point brush. So if you have a fine point brush, great. If you don't, you can use the end of a paintbrush like so. You can use the side of a paintbrush. So if I was using this brush, I would only be using like one little corner. So I wouldn't be putting it flat like this. I would put it on its side and only use the little edge right there. See how I changed the edge by using it? So you want to choose the tool you have that will make the smallest marks. Whatever you have available. And what we're going to do is we're going to start to add some of these little details on the back of your whale here. So kind of like barnacles or like, you know, rough spots on the skin or some, you know, those kind of things. I'm not sure what they would be actually. So we're going to start with this color you used for your body. And we're going to make a gray, a light, and a very light version of this color. So I'm going to take some water, scoop some onto a new spot, and we're going to start with the gray version. So I'm going to add a little bit of white to lighten it up, and then I'm going to add a little bit of black to make it grayer than what we have. Okay, so make sure it's not the same. And it can be subtly darker. It doesn't need to be super dark. You don't want like black. Well, if you want to put black, you can. But then what you're going to do is we're going to start on the front of the whale here. Actually, you know what? We're going to start on the tail. Yeah, because you want lots of focus here. The tail is kind of the tail. It's at the back, right? So what we're going to do with this darker color is on the same side of the tail. So I'm going to do this side and then this side. I'm going to start to do these little tiny dashes and dots. And hopefully you can see that. If not, you know what? I'll bring it closer. Hopefully that doesn't make anybody dizzy. But you're going to be doing these little tiny dashes. And they are going the same way, but they don't all look exactly the same. Oh, did everyone see the light just go? Yep, one of those days today. Okay, so you did the tail, just like that. That's what those little dashes look like. Then we're going to work on the back of your whale. So it's the exact same movement, the exact same step that we were just doing. But we're gonna follow the back to the front. So just like this. And you can do more in some spots. You can do less in some spots. You can overlap some if you like. But mine are always following the contour of my whale's back, just like so. And it's very subtle. You probably can't see these stand out too much on the camera. That's okay. They're not really supposed to be really, really like stand out important right now. So I did along the back. I bring that one down a little bit. And then after you've done that, we can do a few here. So start at the back of the flipper and do some just along the belly, just like that. And again, I keep grabbing water from my paint. You don't have to do that. My paint is just very dry. Just like so. Okay. And then you can do a little bit around the nose here. So I'm gonna go like so. Just bring a few. Okay. So I've done the tail, both sides. I've done the bottom of, like close to the belly. I've done the back and along the nose here. I'm just gonna go close that door and I'll be right back. I'll let everyone catch up. Okay, so the next spot we're gonna put some is on those flippers because we did all that space here. So I'm gonna start on this one here and I'm gonna put just a few, and make them smaller because they're farther away. So you want them to be smaller. So use the tiniest tip of your brush just to put some details. And then these ones here, you can be a little bit bigger because they're closer to you, but they're still pretty small, right? Just like that, along your whale. And they're heading downwards, so all my dashes are down. They're like this, they're not like this, okay? Okay, so I'm gonna bring that closer so everybody can see. Hopefully the light's gonna cooperate. But see, they're very subtle. They kind of blend in to the back of the whale, and that's good. That's what we want, okay? The next thing we're gonna do is wash your brush. And we're going to make, ooh, I got a little bit of water. No big deal. The next thing we're gonna do is make a slightly lighter version of that color we just made. Or actually of your skin color, of the main color here. So I'm gonna take some more, move it to a new spot. Take some white, not too much, just a little bit. And we're going to make a color that's like that. So because I took it from that pile, this little bit here, it's the same color, so I know it's lighter by adding white, and it doesn't have to be really light, it just has to be a little bit lighter because we're going to build up these layers. So guess what? We're gonna do the exact same thing. Starting at the tail, we're going to do some little dashes, just like so, along the back. And then we're gonna do some here, like that. And I'm gonna make maybe a couple that go over there. And I'm gonna do some closer to the edge. I don't know why, I just feel like it should fit in there. And then I'm gonna start here and do the same thing. And fill this up. And see how some of mine, I bet you can see it better now, but some are longer and wider, and some are smaller and narrower, right? So this depends on how hard you're pressing your brush. Just like so. So we're just gonna go on top. And you don't have to do them exactly on top of where you put the dark ones. You can put them in between, you can put them overlapping. You can kind of change these and put them anywhere along the same spot. Like so. There we go. Okay, so I bet you can see those. I'm gonna bring them down just a little bit more there. And then we have to put some here, along the belly, just a few. See how dark that color looks on the white, but it looks really light compared to the skin of the whale? That's kind of cool, eh? I think it's so neat. And then who knows the last spot? Where do these little dashes go? Oh, along the flipper. There we go. Just a few. Remember, the ones on here are really small because they're farther away. These ones can be a bit bigger. Just like so. Okay. The last thing we're gonna do is make this color even lighter and do another layer of dashes on top. And these are the ones that would be highest up off your whale's back, so they would be the lightest, right? They'd be catching the most light because they're the highest. So once you're done these middle tone dashes, don't worry about this color anymore. All we're gonna do is scoop up some more white, a pretty big glob of it, and mix it in. And it doesn't look that much lighter. I'm actually gonna take a little bit more. It doesn't actually look that much lighter on here, but once we put them on here, they're gonna look kind of glow. It's gonna look really neat. So you want a lighter blue, a lighter version of your whale's color, or back color that we've worked with. And these ones you're just gonna put on top, little tiny dots or dashes. I say dashes because dots are round. Nothing really on a whale, aside maybe from their eyeball, is that round. So we want to go with dashes. Dashes are a little bit more natural looking, I think anyway. I could be wrong, but. So we're gonna do the same thing. We're just gonna layer. And I always put a little bit less of the light ones as I did of the other ones. Oh, and you know what? See on that dorsal, you might want to put a nice, like, some bigger ones up top because that's the highest part of the whale's back. So it would be catching the most light. Yeah, if we're gonna talk about height and stuff, right? So we're just gonna put these along here. I'm just gonna follow the contour of your whale's nose, just like so. And along here. And then I'm gonna go here and do the belly. No, I need some water. My paint's getting pretty dry. There we go. Okay, and where's the next spot? Flippers, remember, smaller on this little one over here. Tiny, tiny. And then bigger on this one here. Just like so. So see how I kind of clustered them more here? I don't know why I did that. It just kind of worked out that way. Sometimes you just make decisions as you go. Okay, so that's it for these dashes. So what you can do next is wash your brush and put it here, or dry it off, because you don't want to have too much water on your brush, because we're going to use black plus your color to make a really dark version, and then we're gonna do a mouth line, and it is very subtle. You don't really wanna see it, it's gonna blend in, but we do wanna have it there, because I didn't put that in at first, and then I'm like, something's missing. It kind of creates a shadow that you can't really see on this part of your whale's mouth. It's very subtle. So take some black, move it to a new spot, take a little bit of your color and mix it in. So it'll be very, very subtle. Just a little change to that black, if it's changed at all. Mine's not really that different. And then what you're gonna do, and this is with your finest point brush that you have, or whatever you can get the smallest detail with, you're going to start right here, and you're going to do a tiny, tiny little line just in between where that body, the top and the bottom meet, and just before you get to the flipper. So don't let it go all the way to the flipper. Just before you get to the end, just make a little tiny curve, like a smile. Okay? Very, very subtle. So I'll bring that up so you guys can see. So see how I started right here? And it's very, very fine, tiny little line, and just a little bit of a curve before we get to the eyeball. Now with this color, because we don't need to go straight black for the eyeball, what we can do is take this color, and I'm gonna do it elevated here. We're just gonna paint in, oops, oh dear. I'm just gonna paint in that eyeball, just like that. Now mine changed a little bit because my paper moved as I was doing that. But there we go. So we're gonna make something that looks like this, okay? Now you can wash your brush, and I'll hold this up here, because from what I can see, it's a pretty good angle to see the next little step we're gonna do. Sorry if it's wobbly. So we have the mouth, and then we have the eye. That's right there. And I wonder if that's a better angle for you guys to see. See how that mouth is so subtle? Like, it's even hard to see on the camera. The next thing we have to do is take some white with the tiniest little tip of your brush. And you're going to do just a teeny tiny little bit of white right here, just like a little glob, and then a tiny little dot underneath, just like that, to make your whale's eyes. Teeny tiny. Actually, I'm gonna make that a little rounder, just like so. And then we are done. After you put the shine in that whale's eye, he's now, or she is now alive, and look at what you've made. And I would love to see how these went today, because this can be a tricky project. But I try my very best to break things down as easy to make it as easy as possible. But I'd always like to see what you've been able to make, because that will help me to learn how to better teach you. So please send us pictures of your photos. You can always tag us at NOTLLibrary. We will see them on Facebook or on Instagram. If you're not comfortable posting them, you can email them to us. You can email me at kdupuy@notlpl.org. So hopefully that will focus today. So that's how you can reach me. If you have any feedback, or if you have any comments or any future suggestions or requests you'd like for painting, please let me know. I'd love to hear from you. But other than that, thank you very much for joining us. And hopefully you had fun painting a humpback whale and learning a technique to do with saran wrap and watery paint. And yes, if you were just watching and you weren't participating, as I mentioned earlier, the video of this project will be up on our YouTube channel very shortly. We've also been working on putting them up on IGTV. But other than that, thank you for joining us, and we hope that now you go back outside and enjoy the weather. If you're painting outside today, I'm jealous. That's awesome. It's beautiful painting weather. Paint dries really quick in the heat like this. Okay, so we'll see you next week, hopefully. If anyone has any requests or suggestions, let me know, and enjoy the rest of your Monday evening. Thanks for joining us again, and this was Kasia Dupuy from Niagara-on-the-Lake Public Library for week 8 of NOTLLibrary Live Create with Kasia. Have a great evening, everybody. Bye.